And we finna start this joint up soon. You know, marinating, drinking some tea real quick. You know, let this song drop. Let y'all get in y'all mood. It's going down. It's one of the most important live streams or recordings you gonna watch, you know? If you happen to see this, you blessed. I'm blessing y'all right here. Some information that you may have known, you may not have known. I'm gonna tell you right now. This is just the beginning. From slave to owner. I'm gonna teach you how to own some property. Well, not how to, but I'm gonna show you how you could own some property out here. I'm gonna show you how. Listen, show you how to be free. I mean, do you really know what it is to be free? So we're gonna cover that. You know, this is not just another sad slave story presentation, none of that. Nah. This is about ownership right here. Slave to owner, man. Part 1. It's pertinent information in regards to the meaning of what it is to be free in America. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, man. All right. And we here. We here, y'all. Appreciate y'all tapping in. I appreciate y'all being here today. If you're watching this video, you are extremely blessed. Understand, you are extremely blessed. And I'm going to tell you why, because this presentation from slave to owner, man, it really entails some information that you may know, you know, when you see all this, but don't let it bore you. Don't think you about to be bored, because if you came here to learn how to be free, you came to the right place. What does it mean to be free? What does it mean to be free? Does it mean you got the freedom to do whatever you want? No, it does not. We live under a system, a republic. We live under a common law system, and in which we have hired people to delegate the responsibilities of the public at large. You know what I'm saying? That's why we vote for people. You know what I'm saying? That's why people get voted for, I should say. But I'm gonna tell you right now, what does it mean to be free? Yo, this the first country. It's the first country where every obligation was dischargeable. Listen. No imprisonment for debt. That's what made America, America. The United States of America. This is what made it the country it is today. You know, you got a constitution, but what you got to understand is the Constitution came out in 1789, the Bill of Rights in 1791. No imprisonment for debt. Why? Because when they was under the rule of them European kings, I mean the British colonies, right? They used to be in Britain. There was imprisonment for their debts. They didn't have representation at Parliament, even though they was doing all this good old trustee business for them. Trustee business for the crown. Until the American Revolution happened. And then it was allegedly no longer working for the crown. It was the United States of America, a Union States of America. Several states of America had been born. And they had created their own corporation. Right? And since they had created their own corporation, they called it the United States. Now, you might think that the first hint of the United States being a corporation is in Title 28 of the United States Code. However, it has been known that the people are electing executives in a corporate fashion. Hold on, I got a call coming in. Peace, brother. Yeah, I'm gonna send you the new one. It just, if you go to my YouTube page, AOB TV, you'll see I started another live. So I'm on there right now. I'm on the phone with you while I'm in class. So I'm just, trying to guide you to the class. Okay. I'm gonna send you what to look up on YouTube right now. Okay. And we'll talk about that soon. All right. So, back to focus. Let me text him the name of this thing, the YouTube channel, AOB TV. So, like I was saying, they started this union, in 1776, July 4th, right? The Declaration of Independence. Now, when they started the Declaration of Independence, this was them, saying that they was going to do business for themselves, but they had to get recognition from other countries, right? But yet and still, the business that was booming out here was slavery, right? And we know and understand, right? From 1619 to 1865, they had this scheme. So look, we in the middle of this. 1776, slavery booming. Now they need somebody to recognize them as a sovereign country or as a sovereign nation. And in order to do that, they had to take loans from these different countries, right? And the loans were backed by what? Slave labor, cotton bonds, things of that nature. Let me pull this link up for these good brothers. Cotton bonds and things of that nature, right? I gotta pull up this link real quick for these good brothers. Let me go ahead and do this. So, everybody's saying they can't view it. Let me get everybody in here. Bear with me, gotta get everybody in here. Gotta give everybody a chance to review what I'm telling them. Okay, let's go. Okay. So everybody share the link. I need them to come in and like and subscribe. Okay. Peace. Okay. I could backtrack a little bit, but really, you're right on time. Still in the midst of talking about, how the United States is a business, and that the business was made in order for business to be done with other countries. So now, 1776, when they declared this independence from Britain, they had to get recognized as sovereign, and they had to take a lot of loans and make a lot of treaties with different countries. And this is the foreign debt. Alexander Hamilton started this system. Now, Alexander Hamilton took the money. Alexander Hamilton took the money that was given to the federal government, the United States Government Corporation. It's not just the federal government corporation from U.S. Code Title 28. It was always a federal government corporation that the 50 states, not yet at the time though, at the 13 states that first incorporated into the Union, incorporated on behalf of the constituents, right? You got representatives, right? So now, and senators. But now, right, what we dealing with is these group of people getting money from everywhere and giving it to the 13 states. So the first 13 states, they was getting paid. They was getting paid, right? The 13 colonies, let's just call them that. The 13 colonies, they was getting paid from the federal government in order to operate as a state. So now the states, and their funding was based on their population, right? And the electoral vote. So, and we know at this time, black people were not considered. Human beings could not vote. We're not free people unless you're talking about specific groups in which we're not getting into. We're just talking about the people that was enslaved, the Berbers. So, you got to keep in mind that this country, when it first started, 1795 Naturalization Act. This country was given to free whites. Let's see. Naturalization. You know what I'm saying? We got some evidence already pulled up. I'm about to switch over to the web browser so we could just start looking up all this stuff, right? So you can understand where we at. And I like to find they stuff on they. Okay. So let's go ahead and jump onto this web browser real quick. Show y'all what I'm talking about. So now, look what it says. Congress first defined eligibility for citizenship by naturalization in this law and limited this important right to free white persons. To free white persons. Hold on real quick, y'all. Put the work in by your lonely, you don't need nobody else. When I come and get you, ain't nobody that could help. Okay, we back. So like I was saying, Congress first defined the eligibility for citizenship as a right for free white persons. Free white persons. Now, at that time, the people in other countries were not considering themselves white. When they came to the United States of America, they became free white persons. Right? So, we know that the first time that they was talking about somebody was free was for the white persons. So they was free and we wasn't. That was 1790, 14 years after the Declaration of Independence. So they was independent, but we was enslaved, right? Okay. Let's just go ahead and fast forward it. Fast forward it all the way to no. Before we fast forward, let's clarify why we was at the Nationality Act, because we was talking about how Alexander Hamilton had took all this money from these foreign countries, and instead of keeping the money for himself, he gave it to the states, which created a state debt, right? A national debt between the states and the foreign government and the federal government, and there was a foreign debt between the federal government and the foreign countries that they borrowed money from, like Morocco, France, Germany, etc. Right? So when you borrow this money, you got to pay it back with interest, right? So now these other foreign countries, they collect the interest off these bonds because they the beneficiaries of it, so they collect the interest. Now, there was a time where America just, as a government, they were too evil, so to speak, doing things that, out of context than what you may see it now. What you see now is more symbolic. Back then it was hands-on. Warrants were dead or alive. If you had a warrant for your arrest and it was for a certain crime, they could shoot to kill without saying freeze, without taking you to jail, without reading you rights. They could have just shot you and killed you because your rights, you had a warrant, and they was going to execute that warrant unless you got your hands on that warrant first and was able to turn that in. That was the common law, But now it's more of a symbolic type of situation. And that all transpired through them, messing up, doing bad business for foreign countries and going default on all the loans that they took, for defaulting on their obligations and therefore, becoming, insolvent to these countries and bankrupt in their own country, because they had to pay those debts before they could pay debts off to the people, because they ended up getting in debt to these people. So what we doing is right now is we showing you how to be an owner, no more being a slave, no more coming outside and not understanding what you're really looking at, And I'm gonna tell you right now, the coldest part about life is the car in your front yard, the house you live in, was equivalent to you and your flesh and blood. Even though your flesh and blood is priceless to you, as a black man, you was only worth a piece of property. So this is how we have to understand how slavery worked. Slavery worked because what? Slaves could not own property. See, slaves could not own property, but that's what it, So let's fast forward now towards the Civil War. Get back onto this web browser. And let's fast forward and let's go to the next slide. What do we got here? I don't know how that. There we go. This is the slide I wanted. So here we are, Confederate States of America, the Confederacy. They talk real bad about them. They started February 8th, 1861. Okay. And then dissolved. 1865, allegedly dissolved, even though there's Confederate flags flying around America for years. When's the last time you see somebody lose a war and they could still fly their flag? Yes, eyes free. Hey, look, they still flying their flag. Yes, eyes free. All right, man. Come on, man. Gotta make you laugh a little bit. Anyways, look at this shit. They formed in 1861, right? Now let's drop down and see exactly when the Civil War started. When they saying that the Confederate Army or the Confederate States of America started because Abraham Lincoln took office, but they knew what was coming. Just like when you hear Donald Trump talk right now, he tells you about what he's going to do, right? They make it seem like when these presidents was elected back in the day that they didn't have these same types of speeches. Abraham Lincoln was telling the people, look, this shit is coming to an end because we got too much federal debt. We owe these foreign countries too much money. And we can't keep depreciating our property value. And what does that mean? Well, the Negro, the slave, the black man was what? A piece of property. And if you don't, and now a man is different than a house. See, a house, you know, you got to keep the roof good. You got to make sure your pipes don't bust. You got to make sure you don't got no leaks and stuff like that, right? But with a man, you got to keep a man fed. You got to keep him warm when it's cold, and you got to keep him hydrated when it's hot. You got to educate this man. Now, what's the number? Now, they fed us, and they gave us some bullshit, pork. Gave us swine all the time, and pig guts and feet and snout and ear, and we ate like dogs, but they fed us and gave us water so we wouldn't die. They wanted to keep they slave alive. That's the only way we was worth something, if we was breathing to them. But they took away the education. That was illegal. You couldn't read or write. Y'all go hit that like button, man. Make sure y'all hit that like button and subscribe to the page. But listen, it wasn't happening. You was not about to get educated. It was picking 1 out of 1,000, 1 out of 100. The same way they pick millionaires now. Same way you was going to get educated. And some of these millionaires, I question if they educated on today's topic. They're not. I don't think they are. I think, I'm one in a million. Cracking this code right here. I'm telling you, listen to this. The Civil War began on April 12th, 1861, when the Confederates attacked Fort Sumter, a Union fort in the harbor of Charleston, South Carolina. And no foreign government ever recognized the Confederacy as an independent country. Why? Because they couldn't put up any bonds. They couldn't put up any collateral on getting some foreign debt. See, in order to become, I'm gonna tell you where I learned this too. In order to become recognized as a sovereign nation, you have to pledge assets as security for another country. You think they just recognize you because they like you and you got a population? No, they say, pay me. Now, if you're a new country, just like a new business, you don't have money yet, right? So how are you going to pay? You're going to pay with the promise of labor. You're going to pay with an obligation. You're going to pay with something that's going to generate the money. Because in order for me to generate this gold from another country, I need them to give me some gold so I can produce it and have something back in my foreign or back in my currency within these states. See, that's how the states got gold and silver coin, because they had to get the money from the foreign governments, which was the gold that they promised with the slave labor and the cotton bonds and all the other bonds. Not just that, but then they became railroad bonds and this bond and that, and you name it. But the money is printed when an agreement is made. When an agreement is made, the money is printed. And if it ain't no agreement made and they printing money, then it's going to cause an inflation. If the money can't get paid back in time. And that's what's called a defaulted loan. You're defaulting on a loan. Default on the debt. They talk like that all the time. We don't want to default on our foreign debt. All right, we're going to talk about that foreign debt. That ain't that. When you ask for reparations, do you know how much your reparations are? Whatever the foreign debt is, that's the reparations. That's how much they owe. because all the foreign debt was backed by slave and cotton bonds initially. I know they was in 1619. They made that deal with the I think King George for Virginia, the Virginia Company, to pledge assets. They had to pledge assets to the Virginia Company for the Virginia Company to help them develop the colony. And that's what you call Virginia, the first slave state. What are you talking about? Jamestown, Virginia, King James. I said King James, Jamestown, Virginia. It was called Jamestown because it was named after a king named James. Now, let's get into the next slide, since we understand exactly when the Confederates attacked Fort Sumter, right? 1861, right? And why did they attack Fort Sumter? Ooh, look at they fly that flag. I didn't even mean to do that. That was on accident. I don't like doing stuff like that. Let me go to the next slide. And this man right here, Abraham Lincoln, good old Abe. Good old Abe, man. What y'all think about Abe? What y'all think about Abe? Drop a comment. What you think about Abe? What y'all think about Abraham Lincoln? What y'all think about Abraham Lincoln? Yes, it's free. Y'all think like Abraham Lincoln? All right, listen. Let me teach y'all something. Abraham Lincoln was a lawyer. The best lawyer in the country. You better believe it. I can't remember how many cases he won, but he was very successful as an attorney. You know, he was a private attorney, you know, and he also worked for the state of Illinois. Became, I want to say, a senator. Let me see. Let's go down and see if we could find quick little brief history on him, because I don't even care that much. That's not the point. The point is, right, Abe, right, he was definitely a lawyer. And he was the lawyer for Union Pacific. Okay? Union Pacific. Now, Abe was a businessman. He understood business. So what was going on was, at the time, the foreign debt was growing out of control, because the Southern slave owners had allowed the slave to become such a depreciating asset. The slave was mentally fractured. And his physical labor could not make up for his mental deficit. You feel what I'm saying? And it costs more money to maintain this slave than he actually made you, until he was almost like part of the family. Hold on, man. I didn't even put this part in here, man. I didn't put this part on presentation, but I might be able to find it quickly. It's in my book. The book is definitely on sale. Let me go ahead and, okay, Abide by Your Oath. You can find it on Amazon. Quick little commercial. Y'all check that out, right? I forget the man that made this statement, but when I find it, y'all gonna love it. Y'all gonna love it. You know, you're gonna love it. You're gonna love it, because this man, basically, he came to the United States, and he basically, he took a look at how slavery was in the institution of slavery, and he called it peculiar. He said it's the most peculiar, you know, type of business that you could run. Like these slaves, like 6 slaves could do the work of 2 English maids, he said, something like that, right? Some crazy stuff. I got it in my book. And I want to find it, because Here we go. See? So, this is from page 28 in my book, Abide by Your Oath. Under the pseudonym AJ Law, okay, it says subject to the jurisdiction, national origin of the so-called Negro. Now, after being taught and kept illiterate and not being allowed to read or write, the black people in general had withered into a state of ignorance. As slaves became more illiterate, they became more of a liability to the Union. Many of the slaves of the mid to late 1800s, right, did not want to free the slaves from captivity. Many of the slave owners, But the corporate interests of the North saw slavery as an increasing liability rather than an asset. Okay? In a letter to Mrs. Baines, William Thackeray, English novelist and author of Vanity Fair, a novel of the Napoleonic period in England, says, I have come away from the South not so horrified as perhaps I ought to be with slavery, which in the towns is not by any means a horrifying institution. The Negro in the good families are the happiest, laziest, comfortablest race of menials. They are kept luxuriously in working time and cared for the most benevolently in old age. One white does the work of 4 of them, and one Negro that can work has his parents very likely and young children that can't. It is the worst economy, slavery that can be, the clumsiest and most costly domestic and agricultural machine that ever was devised. Uncle Tom's Cabin and the tirades of the abolitionists may not destroy it, but common sense infallibly will before long, and every proprietor would be rid of his slaves if he could, not in the cotton-growing states, I mean, but in households and in common agricultural estates. Now, I read it a little slow because I'm a slow reader, and I hope y'all don't beat me up for that. You need to get a copy of the book, and you'll understand exactly what I'm talking about anyway. However, if you understood what I said, William Thackeray basically just said that slavery, right, costs more to uphold than it is going to pay you. So it'd be wise to let go of your slaves, except for the people in the southern agricultural states, right, in which it's a reason to have slaves. So these people in the South formed a confederacy, right, like we just saw. And it was against Abraham Lincoln because Abraham Lincoln has stepped into a presidency where he inherited the Moral Tariff Act. The Moral Tariff Act was a tariff act that increased the let's see if we can. It's not on the next one. No, we'll find it. The Moral Tariff Act increased taxes on the South, okay? And when it increased them taxes on the South, here we go, they were sick. They were sick, boy. 40%, let's see, let's go down. Impact. In its first year of operation, the Moral Tariff Act increased the effective rate collected on dutiable items by approximately 70%. In 1860, American tariff rates were among the lowest in the world. Okay, now listen, the tariff rates, right? The import goods, it used to cost nothing to import some slaves. Nothing to import slaves into the South. When the Moral Tariff Act was introduced, it increased it. It increased the rate on dutiable items up to 70%, on average about 40%. So now they paying increased taxes on the imports, on importing slaves. Also, the slaves was a depreciating asset. So the North, the Union, not just the North, the Union was putting pressure on the Confederate States of America to just let go of the slaves. Listen, free them, but they had a plan. It wasn't like they was going to free them without an olive branch. They was trying to compromise with the South. The South was never meant to be an enemy of the Union. They left the Union themselves. They seceded when Abraham Lincoln got elected. They left the Union. It was a choice. It was a choice they made. And since they made that choice, the Union said, we're going to march into Fort Sumter and go take care of the business that we got to at Fort Sumter. And that's when the Confederacy started busting shots. When them Union troops start coming into South Carolina to go to Fort Sumter, they bust shots at them and took that shit over. So that's real rap right there, right? Now, Abraham Lincoln inherited this because I don't think he's the one. It was adopted on March 12th. You see, at the top, first sentence, adopted on March 12th, 1861, during the administration of James Buchanan, right? Abraham Lincoln got elected into that joint, right? He didn't never mean to get put into that position. Okay, good old Abe. He was just a businessman who had corporate interests behind him, and he wanted to make sure we didn't allegedly mess up the foreign debt. I mean, it's a tough story to tell, but let's just tell it how we telling it on our side. You know, you got to figure out a lot of stuff on their side. So let's go to the next slide. And what is this talking about now? This here is hold on, let's get this right. Let's get this right real quick. Okay. All right, so Abraham Lincoln Papers. Now, a lot of y'all may not know about this letter in particular. This letter is a letter from Abraham Lincoln to Horace Greeley. Okay, now this letter right here, hold on. It's free. Yes. It's free. All right. This letter is the letter that Abraham Lincoln wrote to Horace Greeley, in which he said what? I would save the Union. Listen to this. I have just read yours of the 19th, addressed to myself through the New York Tribune. If there be in it any statements or assumption of facts which I may know to be erroneous, I do not know and here. I do not now and here controvert them. Okay? If there be in it any interferences which I may believe to be falsely drawn, I do not now and here argue against them. If there be perceptible in it an impatient and dictatorial tone, I waive it in deference to an old friend whose heart I have always supposed to be right. I would save the Union. I would save it the shortest way under the Constitution. The sooner the national authority can be restored, the nearer the Union will be the Union as it was. If there be those who would not save the Union unless they could at the same time save slavery, I do not agree with them. If there be those who would not save the Union unless they could at the same time destroy slavery, I do not agree with them. My paramount object in this struggle is to save the Union, and is not either to save or destroy slavery. If I could save the Union without freeing any slave, I would do it. And if I could save it by freeing all the slaves, I would do it. And if I could save it by freeing some and leaving others alone, I would also do that. What I do about slavery and the colored race, I do because I believe it helps to save this Union and forbear. And what I forbear, I forbear because I do not believe it would help save this union. I shall do less whenever I shall believe what I'm doing hurts the cause. I shall do more whenever I believe doing more will help the cause. I shall try to correct errors when shown to be errors, and I shall adopt new views so fast as they shall appear to be true views. Are you listening to what I'm telling y'all? I don't think y'all listen to what I'm telling y'all, man. Need y'all listen up. Listen what this man said right here. If I could save the Union without freeing a slave, I would do it. What does this mean? If I could save it by freeing all of them, I would do it. If I could save it by freeing some and leaving others, I would do it. How do you save the Union by freeing some and leaving others? Listen to what he's saying. You gotta really dig deep. How do you save the Union by freeing some of the slaves? How would that save the Union? Because it was about money. It was about bonds. It was about value of property. Not value of people, not valuing your human rights, not your civil rights. It was about valuing the property. That's why Abraham Lincoln could save some and leave others. If he could, he would. Come on now. But he freed them all because he had to. Why? Because we pledged all of our debt on the backs of these blacks. Listen, we pledged all of the debt on the back of the black. Shout out to D Mecca. Don't y'all understand what's going on? Okay, maybe not. It's not easy to understand. We're going to keep going. Who was Horace Greeley? See, Abraham Lincoln wrote this letter to Horace Greeley. Who's Horace Greeley? Horace Greeley. It's the man right here. Horace Greeley, right? But who was he? I mean, I don't, all this, it don't matter, right? Congress, 30th Congress. It'll be good to go look at what happened in 30th Congress now that I see his name. But let's just go to the next thing. Horace Greeley was the founder and editor of the New York Tribune. So he was an influencer, somebody who had influence in them streets, propagandist. You know what I'm saying? Propagandist. All right, so now let's move past this. And let's just get here. It's a little hot, quick note. President Lincoln. Look at that. Look at that caption. Look at the first one. It says 1862. President Lincoln signed into law a revenue-raising measure to help pay for Civil War expenses. The measure created a commissioner of internal revenue in the nation's first income tax. It levied a 3% tax on incomes between $600 and $10,000 and a 5% tax on incomes of more than $10,000. Do y'all hear that? The IRS was started as a Civil War expense, a Civil War department, a Civil War commission of internal revenue. It's a war department. Eyes free. Yes, eyes free. Say it again. Eyes free. Oh, goodness gracious. Whoa. And then, so when the Civil War ended, why didn't they close it? If it was raised to make money for... See, the southern states, the Confederates, this is what they was talking about. They was talking about that bullshit. Talking about that corporate bullshit. They knew what they was talking about. Peace. Peace. Listen. Them foreign, them, what am I talking about? Somebody just called me. Listen, President Lincoln. Oh, the goddamn Confederates. They was right. They was right. They was right. They was right. They seen it coming. They said, listen, Abe is not, he's foul. He's going to come, he going to try to take away the slaves and free the slaves. So now, and he going to come with this new thing where they going to tax these niggas. They don't even know they about to get taxed. They just going, as soon as you free them, they going to be happy and joy. And that's what they thought. I mean, even though it took years for everybody to learn, allegedly, that we was free, allegedly, that, you know. I'm just saying, man, President Lincoln signed into law the IRS in 1862 during the Civil War to pay for the expenses of the Civil War. He taxed the Union. And this is why the South didn't want to have no parts of that, because they was going to do that anyway. See, they knew what they was talking about behind closed doors. They was going to do that. They said, man, they about to start this Internal Revenue Service, and they trying to tax us. They going to tax us. The Moral Tariff Act increases them tax rates 40%, and yeah, you have to get up out of here. You know, it's bad business for the South at that point. You know, whose electoral votes was driven by that 3/5 compromise. They loved it. They loved it. But they knew if they freed the slaves, motherfuckers ain't going to want to stay out there. Except for the ones that understand what that land is about. They going back now. Now brothers is going back to the South. All right, and you can keep reading down, you know. You keep reading down this list if you want. They definitely started doing all kind of stuff to tax your money. You know what I'm saying? The IRS is used as a war tax. So who we at war with now? Why they still look, they've been at war since day one. So let's see. Matter of fact, let's see. Yeah. Let's put on a little bit of music in this background, man. Let's get a little something going, man. Ain't nothing wrong with it. Oh, I ain't got none of this. We're going to get one going on the other screen in a second. I had to play some music, man. Let's just, we're not taking it a step back. Let's see what the next one is, actually. Okay, and the next one is the Emancipation Proclamation. So, I guess we'll come back to that in about 5 minutes. I'll fill up my teacup. We're going to take a little break. Finna put some music on for you. Yeah. Don't forget the. Yeah, you gotta invest in yourself. Why? You can't expect that from no one else. Nah, just put $1,000 on your shelf. Figure out your business name and structure then what else? A business address, don't forget the phone number. Now you getting mailing phone calls, 1-800-HUSTLER. Got my website cracking in this motherfucker. Matter of fact, order merch right now if you wanna. Articles of incorporations and bank accounts. More ways to get money is what I'm thinking about. I shake 5 trade lines and make a paper route. 5 more trade lines, I got a safe amount. Go to another bank and put some money in the savings. Use it as collateral for credit card monthly payments. Pay the bill and let it cycle 3 monthly statements. Now I'm 1 step closer to my undertaking. Liquidate the vapor, turn the plastic into paper. Using other people's property like naughty by nature. You'll get trenched with the S in front. I play the background cause y'all hella front. Beat you like a set of drums. From what's next to come is best to run. Back to the business flow. I got good verses like I'm biblical. And getting money's my religion. 9/10 of this game is
possession, 1/10 this position. Listen, I'm outside the box, standing on my square prism. I do what I say, cause my statement is the mission. Need I mention my righteous intentions? Thin line between vengeance and the right decision. Fuck your life, cause we love killing, blood spilling. Bust guns to my trigger finger, get the numb feeling. Use a motherfucking slum villain. Fortune 500 hood niggas making millions off of drug dealing. And don't give back to the children. No gifts on Christmas, no turkeys on Thanksgiving. You alive, but you ain't living. You alive, niggas stay fibbing straight to the grave of state prison. Now you just a number, see the lightning, but you hear the thunder rumble overhead, though you never wonder who is causing this to happen. Black clay molded into fashion. It be the God body rapping. Get your credit right. Nowadays, that's how you maneuver. No swine, but I piggyback the authorized user. I'm special like a Saturday night 5-shooter prime ruler. Get out of line and I'll fine tune you. Yeah, it's all on the business. It's all on the business. It's nothing personal. It's all on the business. Yeah, it's all on business. It's nothing personal. It's all on the business. My word is bond and God is my witness. Nothing personal. It's all on the business. Word is bond and God is my witness. It's nothing personal. It's all on the business. My word is bond and God is my witness. It's nothing personal. It's all on the business. It's never personal. It's all
bringing it back in.
Yeah.
Bringing it back in. Go ahead and drop the volume on that joint right there. Bringing it back in. So, we stopped at the Emancipation Proclamation. That's where we was at. We was about to get into that. Really about to get into the nitty gritty of telling you exactly what it means to go from slave to owner because, I just had to give you a quick little history backdrop. And that's a quick little history backdrop and a little small little evidences, reviewing out of the book and citations and quoting people, stuff like that. And everything that I'm showing you actually is off government websites. This is all public domain. I mean, except for the stuff off Wikipedia about the Confederates and the Moral Tariff Act. This just certain things easy to find, and it doesn't really matter about how much you dig in it. But stuff like this, the Emancipation Proclamation, this is something that's on their website, nationalarchives.gov. So now let's go get into it. And this is a transcript of it. And basically, if we just say paragraph 2, not the bold part, but paragraph 2, transcript. There we go. So, this the whole thing. And I'm not going to read it all. However, he declared the slaves free. This is when he said, all persons held as slaves, forever free. The executive government of the United States will recognize and maintain the freedom of such persons. Will do no act to repress such persons. Do no act like build a penitentiary. But, these people fight behind closed doors. It's the Emancipation Proclamation. Now, the question that lingers over my mind, there's a few things that come up. But, so the Emancipation Proclamation issued on January 1st, 1863. Now, the same day that Abraham Lincoln issued the proclamation, right? He issued the Homestead Act of 1862 and gave Daniel Freeman land under the claim. And I already showed you the Naturalization Act of 1790. The only people that could be citizens was the free whites, free white person. So Daniel Freeman, being a free white person, became the first citizen to make a claim and was eligible for up to 160 acres of public land. So the same day he said free the slaves, he gave all the land to the free white persons. I's free. Oh yeah, I's free. I's free. Ain't that a shame? So now when you, even though he said free the slaves, what was you gonna own? What kind of land was you gonna own? What was the property that you was gonna own? There was no land. There was no land in the form of soil and grass for you to own, because they gave it all away to free white persons in the Homestead Act of 1862. Now, January 1st was a significant day, wasn't it? The same day the Emancipation Proclamation got issued, which was the same day Abraham Lincoln gave Dale framing the land. And here goes all the, this is on nationalarchives.gov, in case y'all think I'll be bullshitting. You know, I come with the stuff. And you can go ahead and look at his documents, homestead applications, proof of improvements. You know, this was like essentially the first form of a mortgage, you know, when Abraham Lincoln gave Daniel Freeman his land, because what'd he do? He got to take this land and make improvements on it like a rent to own. So as long as he took care of the land and took care of the ground and built a home on that land, he could keep the land, right? He didn't have to pay for it because he made a claim. See, the Homestead Act of 1862 was very significant. See, because on January 1st, 1863, that's the same day that they issued the Emancipation Proclamation. So even though they were saying on January 1st, from this day on out, y'all, every black person is considered free by the federal government, they was also saying we're going to give away all the federal land that we have to all the free whites before y'all actually even get up out of this bondage. And then, you know, the Civil War continued, right? So let's see what we got. Let's go to the next slide. So now, Civil War, the debt of the Civil War, right? How much did the Civil War cost? Like, what was the real reason for the Civil War? Did the Civil War get fought because, you know, Abraham Lincoln wanted to free the slaves? He already said it wasn't about freeing the slaves. It was about saving the Union. So, but Abraham Lincoln wasn't the one who drew the first shot. So down south, they felt like he was, you know, ruining the Union. But up top, they felt like they was keeping the Union together. And a lot of people may not know, but the debt was so high during the Civil War because it's an internal beef that the government had to print more money. Now listen, this was the first time the government printed money, and it was known as greenbacks, and it was not backed by gold because the government did not have that much gold at the time. The government did not have that much gold at the time. And what website is this? treasurydirect.gov. So what do you mean the government didn't have that much gold at the time? What happened to all the gold and silver coins that the people was putting in the banks, and all this gold and silver that the United States corporation, federal government, had borrowed from these foreign countries to stimulate the state economies? What happened to the money? What happened to the gold? We ain't gonna get there, but listen. They sold $500 million in bonds to raise money. I told you got to make bonds to make money. To print money, you have to have bonds. Print paper known as greenbacks. Come on now. Legal Tender Act of 1862. So you can see why the Confederacy was not rocking with Abe. They was like, see, they can't blame. They just needed something to blame it on. And I think they was going to do this stuff anyway, but they blaming it on the Civil War, which is a perfect scapegoat. And you know it's a scapegoat because the Civil War wasn't no good thing. That shit increased the national debt, you know, like, what did they say, 10 times? 40 times than what it was 5 years earlier. So in 5 years, the national debt increased 40 times. Why? Because they didn't have that gold, and they losing money by funding war against each other on their own soil. It's going to cost you double. The National Banking Act of 1863 allowed for the creation of nationwide banking system that loaned money to government to pay for the war. The Civil War was a big, man, listen, it was a big trick. And they got us. They got us. When they said they wanted to free the slaves, it was coming with a compromise. It was coming with not stipulations, but strings attached. For the lack of better terms. So, you got the National Banking Act, paper money and coins. When did this start? During the Civil War. Let's not act like this all started in 1933 or 1912. And none of this started in them years. No, this started during the Civil War. Abraham Lincoln. And you wonder why he got chipped. You wonder why he got chipped. I don't wonder why he got chipped, personally. He got chipped because he was planning on increasing taxes. He was planning on creating legal tender, not backed by gold, because the country didn't have that much gold at the time, and that had nothing to do with the war. And that started to inflate the country. Because if you using fake money to pay for goods at the stores, not backed by gold, and you still owe other people gold, what is it costing you to produce these goods that are being sold for this fake money? You're increasing your debt by the day, by the dollar. And they knew it. They saw it. They said, we going bankrupt. It's going downhill. They seen it. They knew it was going downhill. Abraham Lincoln was a businessman, not a fool. So that's why they started the National Banking Act, because they needed a bankrupt entity to take the fall for the cash. Take the fall for the money that's not backed by nothing. We'll bail you out. But instead of bailing out the bank took over. And they could never get out of that debt that they went into during the Civil War. And guess what? Who's to blame? It ain't the South. You blame everybody. If the South would have played nice, they still would have got their olive branch. What's the olive branch? The 13th Amendment is the olive branch. When the Civil War was over, they didn't just let Confederate states back into the Union. In order for them to get back into the Union, they had to adopt and ratify the 13th Amendment and 14th Amendment. Or I should say ratify and adopt. But they had to do the 13th and 14th Amendment. Without question. Every state is a 14th Amendment citizen. And the southern states had to agree that they couldn't get any claim. They could not file any claim against anything that got taken during slavery. It was illegal. Okay, so let's get further in the story. Because we're going to make a part 2 of this anyway and get down to some nitty gritty for y'all. I know y'all want this. So listen, what is the definition of emancipation? Now, this is out of the Black Law Dictionary. And if you want me to prove it, I do have a Black Law Dictionary right in front of me. But I'm going to use it for the next word. Okay. This word right here, I confirm that it's also in the dictionary in the same order it's in online. I found this definition online at the Law Dictionary website. Okay. Emancipation. Definition and legal meaning. Let's remember, Abraham Lincoln was a lawyer. He wasn't just kicking the shit with you when he wrote the Emancipation Proclamation. Every word is calculated. Definition and citation. The act by which one who was unfree or under the power and control of another is set at liberty and made his own master. You free yet? Hold on. I'm going to read it again. Read it again in case you understand what I'm telling you. The act by which one who was unfree or under the power and control of another is set at liberty and made his own master. You want me to play a black slaver? You want me to play it? Well, yes, I is free. When I say from slave to owner, what I mean is you are your own master. That's what emancipation means. Now, what does it mean to be a master, an owner? What does that mean? An owner of what? There's only one kind of owner, and that's the owner of property. And what was a slave considered? He was considered none other than property. So if he is his own master, then what are you the owner of now? You are the owner of your own property. You ever seen one of them movies, one of them slave movies, and one of them niggas like, man, or it's like a deal, a white man offers a black man a deal to get him his papers. Hey, I could get you your papers if you help me do something. You know, you help me do this and that, and I'll give you your papers. What are the papers? Well, the papers are nothing but certificates of title. Certificates of title. Your paper is a certificate of title. That's what the slave owners had to prove that they owned you. They had a certificate of title. The same way you got a certificate of title in your car that says you own your car. Certificate of title of who owns the slave. Okay? This is what I mean by owner. When you the owner of your title. Now, let's move a little bit forward. Now, this here is Minnesota Court Rule 220. Birth certificates. Minnesota Court Rule. Court Rule. Court Rule. The Registrar of Titles is authorized to receive for registration of memorials upon any outstanding certificate of title and official birth certificate pertaining to a registered owner named in said certificate of title showing the date of birth of said registered owner, providing there is an attached to said birth certificate an affidavit of an affiant who states that he or she is familiar with the facts recited, stating that the party named in said birth certificate is the same party as one of the owners named in said certificate of title, and that thereafter the registrar of title shall treat said registered owner as having attained the age of majority at a date 18 years after the date of birth shown by said certificate. Legal jargon, blasey blah. What does that mean? All on the business. Well, it means that you are the registered owner of your certificate of title and official birth certificate, certificate of title. Outstanding. What does outstanding mean? Publicly issued. Outstanding means publicly issued. Did you issue it privately? No, the public issued it. The people, the government issued it on behalf of the people. So therefore, you have a publicly issued certificate of title and what you are the owner of. And once you have reached the age of majority, you are officially at the age of legal capacity to contract for your name, for your title. For your title. When you put, listen. Understand that when you was a slave, you couldn't own a title. Slaves could not own certificates of title. And immediately, to free a slave, you had to allow him to own his own self, his certificate of title. He had to be a master of that. Let's go back. Immediately upon emancipation, what does it say? The act by which one who was unfree or under the power and control of another is set at liberty and made his own master. Made your own master. Master of what? What is the master? The master is the slave owner. What does he own? He owns the slave's title, the certificate of title. The same thing he has to auction off, that gets auctioned off. And when he paid for his slave, they gave him the paper that had the name on it, the certificate of title, and he had to sign it. And he had to sign it, and that was his slave now because he's the owner of the certificate of title. And they said that we're going to get rid of slavery and abolish slavery, which means you cannot own someone else's certificate of title without their consent unless they're duly convicted of a crime. You cannot be the owner. You are the owner of your own title. They created a system in which everybody is their own true master. If you was born in one of these 50 states, you are the owner of the title of the registration, the registrar of title that they put in your name. So when you turn 18, you could do business. That's why when you a child, you can't do business. You got to wait until you turn 18, or you have to do what now? Now, let me hit you with the trick question. Let's go back to the definition of emancipation. The enfranchisement of a son by his father, which was anciently done by the formality of an imaginary sale. Hold on. This was abolished by Justinian, who substituted the simpler proceeding as a manumission before a magistrate. Now listen, what does that mean? That means when your son is 12 years old and he's a little boy genius and he know how to take care of his business, and he say, "Pops, I want you to go and emancipate me. I want to be emancipated." What does that mean? That means I want to be able to enter into legal contracts and do business for myself, Pops. I want to be the owner of my title. And anciently was done by the formality of an imaginary sale. Why is it an imaginary sale? Because when he takes ownership of his title, right, it's not something that has to be done, except for just by waiting until you turn 18, the age of majority. It's imaginary. Soon as you turn 18, you the owner, but who creates that age? Exactly. So listen, it says it right here in Michigan. Now, you might question, well, this is Minnesota court rules. I'm in motherfucking Montana. I'm in New York. I'm in Maine. I'm in fucking Texas, Arizona. You might be anywhere in the country, any state. And this is the same definition. You know how I know? You know how I know? It's a few ways I know. I'm going to show you a few ways I know. This is one of them. Uniform Commercial Code, okay? Now, what is the Uniform Commercial Code? Okay, this is not the definition up here. Let's go down. Uniform Commercial Code. Its purpose and policies right here, right? The Uniform Commercial Code must be liberally construed and applied to promote its underlying purposes and policies, which are to simplify, clarify, and modernize the law governing commercial transactions, to permit the continued expansion of commercial practices through custom usage and agreement of parties, and to make uniform the law among various jurisdictions. Every one of the 50 states has adopted the Uniform Commercial Code. Do you see the list here? Do you see the list? Okay. Every state has adopted the Commercial Code, which means The codes, the commercial codes of the states are uniform. That means you could use one in this state and that one. You just can't be trying to use it in the context of using another state's code in another state. That don't work. However, the Uniform Commercial Code says that all these laws are uniform. It's all one thing. It's all one thing. Listen to this. What is this? Since 1948, most state registrars are using a uniform numbering system. It just took time. You got to realize the country, 1776, they didn't have all this stuff established. They got their money from these countries. They going bankrupt. They losing money. And eventually, boom, 1933, they go bankrupt. However, by this time, we was already the owners of our titles. You got to know you the owner of your title. You got to know how to be a slave owner. You would know that the state registrars are using a uniform numbering system to name what? Your certificate of title, birth certificate. Didn't we just talk about that? Birth certificates are certificates of title, and they're the way they're registered are through a program operated under the Social Security Department. So when you get your birth certificate, it come with that, they generate you a Social Security number and all this stuff. It's all under the Social Security. Okay, so Social Security, the security for society. Security, society's security. Social Security, society's security. Social means to advocate a group of men for one common cause. You understand me? Social means to advocate a group of men for one common cause. Let me just do it like that for you. Real simple. For one common cause, they advocate. Now listen, Social Security. What is security? Security is payment. Security is payment. This is how they pay society, right? Through the Social Security. Is this not how society gets paid? When you get paid to your Social Security number. When you pay somebody through your EIN number, the employer number. All this is ran through the Social Security. Social Security is talking about society's payments. Your birth certificate, the code, the registration uniform numbering system is all under the program operations manual system of the Social Security. This is what I'm trying to tell you. You the owner. I ain't trying to tell you do nothing with your shit. I'm telling you, you the owner. Forget all that. Let's just go back. You the owner. Because why? Because you was emancipated. I swear, emancipation means one is a master of his own self, or you're made your own master. You've been emancipated. So we gotta learn how to be the masters, learn how to be the slave owners. Hopefully y'all learned something today in today's class, man. I'm finna sign off, in a few minutes. But today was definitely entertaining for me. I definitely enjoyed entertaining y'all, and when y'all get on this video, make sure y'all leave a comment. Make sure y'all like it. Make sure y'all share it. Make sure y'all let people know, this is part 1 from Slave to Owner, All on a Business. Y'all can find me on Instagram at All on a Business TV, ALLONABUSINESS TV. You can also, of course, like and subscribe here on YouTube, AOB TV. You know what I'm saying? And let's just take it back to to me, quick little conclusion review. Today was a episode about history of the Civil War, history by Abraham Lincoln, Horace Greeley, the letter Abraham Lincoln wrote to Horace Greeley. The true reason the Civil War started, why the Confederate States of America came together. We covered a lot, but, as long as you understand that, emancipation means, You are your own master, and when you understand that language in court, when somebody says the word master or owner, they talking about slave owners, because in this country, it's you only gonna be a slave or a slave owner. Ain't no in between. And if you straddling the fence, you're most likely gonna end up a slave. Okay, so y'all just go in, study this information. If I said something wrong, please correct me. I will stand corrected. Y'all make sure y'all go study these laws, these definitions, these people that I'm highlighting for you. And if y'all got any topics that y'all want me to discuss, I'll make sure I keep them in mind, and we'll see if we can get to them. If y'all have any questions, drop them off in the comment section. Hit me with questions, and on the next video, I'll be glad to start the presentation with answers from the last presentation's questions. So y'all just tap in and make sure y'all have a blessed day, and y'all stay beautiful out there. Stay motivated and positive, determined, and dedicated to taking care of your business and doing good business out here. Once again,